This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, that's weird. Did you see that? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
heard it.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's just start with this because Katie was going to join us too. And so let's just start simple, and do some really basic things in LightBurn as first tests. So she was going to do a circle, and we're just going to do that. If you hold down the shift key as you drag the circle, it'll stay proportional. So you can do an ellipse if you want to.
Am I supposed to be able to see like a LightBurn screen right now, or am I supposed to pull mine up, or what? Because all I'm seeing is the Thunder Laser. Oh, there we are. Never
Sorry.
mind.
So
My bad.
I got it myself. I'm going to back up. Let me get out of here.
Court.
Okay, so I'm going to select circle, and I'm going to hold down the shift key as I drag, and we'll make a circle, I don't know, about that big. That might be a little too big. That's 64 millimeters. Here's a little trick. If you want to make it 30 millimeters, you can do that. You can also unlock them and make an ellipse out of it. So you can adjust the settings up here at the top to get them the way you want them. Now I'm going to lock that back so that when I drag it, it'll stay, the proportions, the aspect ratio will stay right. So let's engrave that circle. So we're going to make it fill, right, instead of line. And that's what it's going to look like in the preview. It's going to etch that. Now, Maureen's already cut something, so we're going to cut a square around that circle, except maybe not quite that big. And let me run through this one real quick thing, and then we'll get, Maureen, we'll ask what your specific application is after we do this one quick little thing. So I'm going to change the color of the square, and it's already set to line. And that's where you'll do your speed and power settings, which is something we'll have to talk about in a minute. But now if you look at it in the preview, it's going to do that fill, and then it's going to do the line. And if you hit play, it'll start. It's showing the transversal moves with the red, and it's showing exactly what the laser is going to do. So we can, I don't know if we can drag the handle. Yeah, we can get it close up to here, and right when it gets done, now you can see it's going to cut the line. So the preview window is your friend, and you should look at it often. So that's basically how line and fill work. Now, Maureen, you were asking about engraving something. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, I think probably when I was saying engraving, like for instance, when you and I were working with it yesterday, we did like the word welcome. And so if it's in cursive, I want the word welcome engraved, and then I want a contour cut around it to make like a sign, shall we say.
Okay,
so something like that.
Use that as an example. So I'm going to hit text.
Sure.
And go out here and just say, well, let me get caps lock right. Delete. My caps lock was messed up. So we'll do welcome, and let's make the font something a little prettier. I don't know, maybe something like that. And I'm going to zoom into it a little. Now I've got my grid turned off just because I prefer it that way. So right now that's a line that's going to cut all of that out. And if you do that, you're going to drop all of your inside pieces and all that. So I think what Maureen was kind of getting at is putting an outline, cutting the shape, cutting the outline around like that. Is that kind of what you mean? So
yeah,
we can make it, we can do an offset on it, and we're going to make that a different color because we want the offset to be a line and we want the red to be a fill. That way it'll engrave the welcome. And if you'll notice, and I think we went over this the other day too, Maureen, that depending on the settings, you have to ungroup this thing and get some of that stuff out of there when it does the outline, because it will make some shapes on the places that you don't want.
right.
So we can do something like that. Now let's look at it in the preview. So I'm going to turn off transversal moves. All that is showing every step that the laser, every path that the laser makes, even when it's not firing or even when it is. So now that's what we get. Now it's going to engrave the welcome, and it's going to cut it out when it gets done.
I have a question.
Okay.
in the welcome, that first part of the W, you see right there, there's kind of like a wonky little bit. Are you able to go in and adjust those nodes like you can in CorelDRAW, or not really?
You can, but I don't know if you, yeah, I think you can break these apart. I don't mess with nodes much, so that's a little beyond me. But yeah, normally you can. Like if you make a square, for instance.
Just double click that outline, Brian.
Double click?
Yeah.
See, Gary, that's why I got you here. You sure?
No, you got it. There's a node edit mode, and I don't design a lot in LightBurn because I use SignLab.
Oh, right.
But I know I've adjusted. There you go.
Right there. Yeah, and now you can neaten that up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So yes, you can. Thank you, Gary. See?
Yep.
I'm liking this already.
I'm done. I'm going home.
The other
Drop
thing
the
about
mic.
the other thing about that offset is, oh, I missed one earlier. Let me get rid of this extraneous stuff again. When you go to select that, you can also make it go inward or outward or both. You can make it whether it's round or real cornered, depending on the shape you want. And you can do something like this even if you want. Instead of a contour cut, you can actually balloon it out a little bit. So you can play with those settings and kind of get it really close to what you want. See all that weird stuff kind of smoothed out on us with it about right there.
Now if I imported because I'm going to be doing some sublimation and stuff with this, but if I import a graphic, is the concept pretty much the same? Just if it's a format that the LightBurn will accept, whether it's a JPEG or PDF or EPS, I import that, and then it's easiest doing the contour on that.
Yes.
It is. Yeah, you'll have to vectorize it probably.
You can import it. You can import an image and it'll engrave it, but it won't contour cut it.
Right. So you'd have to you can vectorize something that you bring in though, and then you can use the outlines and all of the Boolean functions and everything over here with it as well. The image thing is something that's just a little bit different, but yeah, you can bring in a logo or a graphic or some letters out of another program or something like that and trace them and vectorize them, and then you can use the offset on there that way.
So what if I am in CorelDRAW and I have a PNG file and I put a contour around it in CorelDRAW, and then import the image and the outline, so to speak, into LightBurn? Can I?
Yeah, sure. I think you'll have to try it, but I don't see why that wouldn't.
Even need. No, I wouldn't. Now, as I'm thinking out loud, I wouldn't even need to bring a PNG in because I want them to match up. I mean, as long as I don't change the size, then whatever I print from Corel or whatever should work with
it'll
the
work
same outline in LightBurn. Yeah. Okay.
Have you got a camera yet, Maureen?
No, sir. I literally plugged the machine in Saturday night, I guess, and pretty much all day Sunday. Brian, bless his heart, was helping me get things going, and I have a whole bunch of those pins cut at this point, so that's all I've done. So
I want to make some of those pins as well. I haven't made them yet, but once you say you're going to do some sublimated images on, you'll heat press the sublimation on, of course, and then you want to like laser around them with the camera. You'll be able to put the camera on and set your image anywhere on the screen, have it update the image, and then you'll be able to see exactly where it's at on your table and set your contour right to it.
Yeah, I think so, because the Unisub and stuff has like a mask over it that I would have to do the cutting and then the sublimating. Do you know what I mean? So but I mean, I eventually plan on getting a camera because I've heard that baby steps. I got to get past wooden pins first.
So Brian, a question I have, I haven't, like I said, I don't design in here. Can you do gradients in this? Like to fade the lettering from the top to the bottom?
You'd probably need to do that outside.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably need to do that outside. I mean, this LightBurn's awesome and has great tools, but for that real heavy lifting, design centric kind of stuff, you'd probably want to be in Corel or one that you normally used to working in, Illustrator or whatnot, for some of that, you know, real fancy stuff. But and there may be a way. Honestly, you know, I test things, but I don't really make things. So I don't design a lot. You know, my designs are squares and circles. You can see the extent of my design right there.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so, you know, but the way you select what these things do can be kind of weird. So they're all set to line right now. I have different layers for all 3 different objects. And if you look at them in the preview, it's just going to cut all of those out and vector them. If I take this one and make it red as well and say that's going to be fill, you notice it fills around the circle. So it engraves everything that's in black. If you don't want it to do that, if you want the other 2 circles and you still want the tiny circle to be engraved, then you just have to give it a different layer and make it fill, and then make the other one line. So you can play around with this stuff and get it to do different things. Now it's cut the whole thing out. See, so it's kind of weird. I need to output it. So you can make it do some weird things just by what layer. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in this example, like the welcome thing, it's a matter of, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, which is not unlike me, but so your settings and everything, let's say you're wanting to do, we'll use that welcome sign because I got that stuck in my head. So when I would have sent this then to my laser, I don't have to change my speed. My speed and power is going to stay the same. It's just a matter of, okay, one layer says engrave and one layer says cut.
Oh, okay,
right?
No, that's not. And I'm glad you brought that up because one of your main questions. No, it's actually way different. So let me just put an outline back on this thing just for demonstration purposes. Do this and ungroup. We'll get rid of that one. I think if I hit the right button, here we go. So now we've got the inside the fill. That's line. Now, what do you see wrong? Who sees something?
You want me to answer?
You want to engrave first and then cut, right?
Right.
If we look at it in the preview right now and we hit play, it's going to cut it first and then engrave it because I have it flopped up here in the cut list, in the cut info. So what I need to do is I want the line to come last. I want it lowest priority. I want it to engrave first and then cut the line. See, those were backwards.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to not watch.
So now what happens? I think. Yeah, it'll engrave and then cut. So that's what we want. So the speed and power are totally different. And I have the library here and I've uploaded all of those today, all the way from the 40 watt to the 130. And I think they're pretty accurate. They're baselines.
Wow.
So let's just imagine that you have some 4.5 millimeter thick plywood and you're going to cut. We already have this in the library. We're going to look at it, but I'm going to select, it's already selected the line because that's going to be our cut. And I'm going to assign these settings that are down here in the library to that layer that's highlighted like this. So now if we look at it, your speed's 20 and your power's 60. Do you see the difference? Now that's not all. To engrave plywood, you don't need a lot of power. So this is engrave and I'm going to assign that to the fill layer. Now, if you'll look, there's some big differences. Now my speed's 500 and my power's only 13, except this is not just right. First of all, we need to make our minimum power in most situations the same as the maximum.
That's because Brian's playing around with 3D.
Hey, you're not supposed to tell anybody that. And 500 is a little quick. Don't you think we should maybe, you know, get it down to around 400? And probably you've got a Nova 24, right? Not an 80 watt. So, you know, maybe
I have a 24, yeah.
Okay, so we'll, you know, maybe something like this, maybe even 300. And that looks a little closer. Line interval looks decent. You want about 318 DPI to start. So now it's set up right, but if you'll note, yeah, they look totally different from one another because one of them you just barely want to make an image and the other one you're actually trying to cut all the way through. So there's big differences there.
But you're saying that in this library that you've already uploaded, that's been already addressed? Because I see this is for a 80 watt material library and I only have 60.
Right, so see, I can load the 60. plywood's in here somewhere. I might have called, there it is. And so there's 4.5 inch. Let's look at something a little closer. There's cut. So let's assign that to that layer. Now to see how it went, it's at 15
Yeah.
speed, 60 power now. That sounds more like what you were doing, doesn't it?
I think
Lower-
we were at
lower
10
speed.
and 75, honestly, but whatever.
Okay, and that might have been a little high, but you also remember you were using your nozzle that had the wide aperture in it because you had your optics out of place. So after we
Right,
got
but now, yeah, but now that I have the smaller nozzle or whatever, I should bump that power down. Then is what you're saying?
I would give it a shot. You know, when you said, I wonder if
Okay.
it's too high, it might have been.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things you can dial it back until you still get a good cut, you know, and that'll
Sure.
be something
Okay.
you have to play with. But these will get you in the ballpark. So
Right,
now
okay.
that looks a lot more like something that you would want to do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maureen, one thing I do along the bottom of your color palette, I name colors. Like I'll pick like something I cut a lot of is acrylic. So I'll take a color and it'll be named acrylic cut, and I'll set my settings in it. And the other one will be acrylic engrave, and I'll set my settings in that to that color. And then LightBurn remembers that, and I don't have to go over and pick my image or my material out of my library. I can just, when I hover over it, it pops up and it says acrylic cut 3 mil. I can click on it and I know that it's going to be the settings that I used every time for 3 mil acrylic cutting.
They're like even shorter. Yeah, you want me to show you where that is?
I would be curious how to do that. Yes, please. Yes.
So
That's
if
like
you
my
double click,
contour cut in my digital printing.
yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah. When you double click one of the layers, you'll get the full information window, and you can name it here.
Okay.
So you could call this ply engrave. So, you know, or something like that. And now when you hover down here.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
So yeah, you can assign these different values and they do stick. So yeah, he's right. Absolutely. So
that would be helpful.
You know what? We probably got about 10 more minutes. I want to try to keep these to a half hour because if we make them too long,
Sorry.
I like to split them up into sections and that way they're more manageable so that we can regurgitate this stuff out on our repository and let everybody else be able to learn from it. So what do y'all think about this so far? This is the pilot episode.
I think it's helpful.
I think
Helpful for me.
I can say I was there when.
awesome. So, Maureen, do you have any other questions? Do you feel, did you download your Thunder Laser, the library, the LightBurn library and install it?
I have not yet. No, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll send you a link and there's even a video on how to get those loaded into your library. So basically you're going to download it from the website and then go to load and then locate that file and hit open and it'll save it. And if things are wrong, let me show you this. For instance, if cherry engrave, if it was just all wrong, I could go to edit cut and this will come up and I can say, no, that's way too fast. And then I can save that and it'll save it in here. If you hit save down here, the library does not automatically save. So after you make a change to it or add something, you'll have to hit save. Now, here's something else real quick. Let's say you found the perfect settings and they're 425 on the power, and you want to save that as a new layer. You can create a new from this layer here. You can create a new library entry like this, and you could call the material cheap ply because that stuff cuts a little different, and it's a cut, and it's 5 millimeters thick, and we're just doing a straight cut. So when you save that, now it's in your library, cheap ply. You see it down here? So you can add your own entries, and then you can keep adding. You can, if you find some other thicknesses, you can also create a new one. And if you call it the same thing, it'll show up underneath this category. So you can organize them under there. So, and I've got a little short video about that, and I'll send you the link. So, does anybody have anything else? I think I might cut this one off a little early. I'm anxious to go back through it and get it published and everything, and unless anybody has any more input.
No, I think for getting started,
I
this
think
is
I'm
pretty
good.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very helpful.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed it, and let me know how it goes. And like I said, I'll have to come up with your gold star, Maureen, because definitely got one. If you keep this up, I'm going to get you a little more advanced toolbox, and we're going to start sending you out places. So don't get
Sure,
too
right.
good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No worries there.
All right. Well, have a good
Thank
evening,
you.
and hopefully we'll talk soon.
All right,
Okay,
see you
thank
later.
you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.